Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So of course we will be talking about the series this week with 23 Dragons. So in this game I'm white, so I played a total of 2 games against 23 Dragons in our simul. So let us cover it. So this week I decided to play C4. So of course, as you all know, the English defense, I've introduced it. Knight c3, g3, bishop g2, control this square, and then use this pawn to control this square. So after knight f6, knight c3, and 23 Dragons plays c6. Now this is very interesting because by playing d5, he's sort of transposing into what is called the Slav defense. And after knight f3, d5, e3. Now this is completely book. The plan for white is to play d4, bishop d3, castles, get the b3, bishop b2. Don't worry about the arrows, you'll get it later. But instead, our friend played bishop g4. And here I wondered, because there are certain traps in the Slav where black brings out this bishop a little bit too early. So I was wondering whether I could punish my opponent for bringing out the bishop too early. Because after c takes d5, I have queen b3, right? And after queen c8, let me just think about taking here, because I have queen protecting the knight. So then, in this case, if you say b6 to protect this pawn, well, what about something like bishop b5, right? Put pressure here, and after bishop d7, knight takes d5 once again, right? Still got the pressure here, still got the pressure here, and all of a sudden, it's in white's favor. So notice how an attack of a pawn, right? Although you could play knight c6, I would still play queen takes b7, right? So then this leads to the final option. What if I just retreat my bishop back? Well, it's probably one of the better moves to do, but that means that you might have brought out your bishop a little bit early. And now in this position, I would recommend the move e6. And the reason why I recommend e6 is because this way, my queen b3 will have no effect. And essentially what black does is develop the bishop, develop the queen, castle, get the knight out, and play e5. That is the goal of black. Bring the bishop out, bring the knight out, bring the queen out, castle, and e5. Of course, that was what I just demonstrated in those arrows, but if arrows are a little bit too fast to follow, just let me know in the comments. So, the goal here is bishop, queen, castle, knight, e5. So, notice how the bishop would be protecting e5, the queen protecting e5, the knight protecting e5. So eventually this pawn's going to come here. Now it has no support, but with the support it will move up. So in the game, I got to play queen b3, and after e6, I thought, okay, I have two options. I can take, or I can play the move knight e5, right? Why knight e5, you might ask? Well, if you just play something like bishop d6, watch what happens. Knight takes g4, knight takes g4, and queen a4 check. let me just pick up that knight for free. After queen d7, let me just pick up that knight for free. So that is the goal, right, for knight e5. But I thought, okay, what about knight d7, right? I can still take, knight takes, and I can take here. Same thing, essentially. But I decided, let's take on d7 right now. Let's put some pressure on the a rook. And after knight bd7, let's play bishop b5. Put some pressure on him. But in fact, this is a little bit of a mistake because, first of all, there might be ideas of, for example, a6. It's not very obvious, but after a6, if white plays bishop c6 and ignores the pawn, then rook b8 comes along. Queen takes a6, and then rook b6, and you start to wonder, okay, queen a4, then what? Well, I guess rook b6 wasn't the move, but yes, rook b6, queen a4, and maybe like rook b4 as well. Queen c2, but of course you could bring the bishop out. I don't know. Maybe I take that suggestion back, but I kind of felt like bishop b5 sort of made my queen look all weird. The computer is suggesting the move bishop takes f3 in some scenarios to double up the pawn structure. Of course, that's not a bad suggestion at all. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to double check on this, but I really believed that my pressure on this d7 piece would be really powerful. Turns out to the computer, it is a grain of salt. It's the computer, of course. The computer knows how to deal with everything, so I don't blame the computer. Of course, 23Dragons plays the best move. Wonderful. After g takes f3, bishop e7. Now, I played d4. Castles, and bishop d2. Now, black is wondering when to play rook b8, and the answer is after the move a5, because think about it like this. The queen sort of has no room to escape, right? So first off, I have to vacate the bishop from the premises. But after rook b8, queen a6, and man, he's coming in. So there are drawbacks to this bishop b5 move. That my queen sort of locked in the cage by itself. We locked myself in. And I guess that's a bit of a drawback from the move bishop b5. So now I know that was a mistake. But knight b6 gave me the option to stop the move a5, so I played queen a6. And after knight fd7, which is interesting. Now in the game, 23Dragons told me about the move knight e8 also coming to c7. I also really admired that suggestion as well. But here, 23Dragons wants to play knight b8. Also fine. So after bishop e2, e5, breaking in the center, very interesting. I daringly take, and after taking on e5, I daringly castle queenside. Now you might think, isn't this dangerous? Rook b8, queen c7, the rook in, knight in. Isn't that dangerous? Well, yeah, it is dangerous. So after a move like rook b8, I played the move king c2. And after the move king c2, our 23Dragons played the move knight bc4. Now you might think, why is the eval bar shooting why did the eval bar shoot from negative 1.75 to only negative 0.18, right? Now, you have to wonder why, and there is no specific explanation for it. All I can tell you is that I guess the engine liked queen d7 better, with the idea of maybe queen f5 going after this pawn and checking the king. Could work, but I don't know. Knight bc4 is played. So here I played bishop c1. Probably not the best move either, but I played it. I thought, you know what? Defends this pawn. That works out. So then our friend 23Dragons plays queen d7. And to me, this helped me a lot. Like, a lot. The reason being, bishop takes c4 with the pin on the queen. So after knight takes c4, queen takes c4, pawn takes c4, rook takes queen. Or you might be wondering, knight takes c4, queen takes c4, queen check, check. But guess what? Queen blocks. So we're all good. So after queen f5, I play the move e4. Now here, I talk about many sophisticated alternatives. Is it bishop d3? Is it e4? It's out of those two options that I'm going to keep my bishop here, right? So I decide to play e4. I decide, you know what? Take my pawn. I really want this pawn. So after queen takes f3, I play bishop takes d5. And surprisingly enough, 23Dragons does not want this pawn. I sort of expected the fact that this pawn was going to be gone with a check on the king, but after rook fd8, I got myself protected. In knight g4, I played queen e2, come back and defend, and after rook takes b2, our 23Dragons went all Hail Mary. I said, you know what, I'm going to take, and after bishop a3, another Hail Mary, I said I'll take that as well, looks like a gift. Queen f6, looking to place pressure on c3, I play queen takes g4, rook b8 is happening, knight a4, queen d6, I have no idea what's going on. So at this point, I sort of thought, okay, so black has two alternatives. Check here, take the knight, take, or place a check here, right? So I thought if queen takes, bishop b3, queen a5, king b2, queen e5, king b1, end of checks, end of story. So instead, rook b8 really surprised me, and I said, let's play knight a4. Queen b2 is not possible, knight takes. Queen d6 is not possible, bishop here. And our 23Dragons tried queen d6 check, I played bishop off, and that was the end of the game. So, in terms of what we learned, first thing was the bishop was brought out a little bit early, like I discussed. And I guess an inaccuracy on my part is bishop b5, but it's sort of a long-term inaccuracy as I describe. So after that, really there were some chaotic moments in the game that I will continue to go over in the next part against 23 Dragons. So stay tuned and have fun.